A few more beautiful places than autumn in New England. The magnificent colors, the various smells, the cool crisp days, the taste of a freshly picked apple, the chill and excitement of Friday night football. It's a time of harvest and bounty, a time to take stock of our many blessings, to relish and to give thanks for the many ways that God has gifted and showed God's love for each of us. So peaceful, so serene, so beautiful. And yet we don't have to look far to become acutely aware that not all is peaceful, serene, or beautiful. For months, our news has been dominated by war in Ukraine, only to be overshadowed by carnage in Israel and the Middle East. In our own country, our government officials find it impossible to put aside their own differences to work together to govern. And even our own families, there's so much pain, so much division, so many struggles, so many challenges and heartaches. Yes, our lives are far from peaceful, serene, or beautiful. We're like a boat in the midst of an overpowering storm without a rudder. Now, as much as ever, we need a spiritual home to connect us with our God and with each other. A spiritual home to provide a strong foundation of God-given values to direct us in a value-devoid world. We at St. Mary's in Jefferson have been incredibly blessed with a strong, vibrant Christian community that is privileged to gather in our magnificent church. We are who we are because we stand on the shoulders of giants. The original St. Mary's was on Main Street near our cemetery. In 1889, this land was purchased and this church was built to be near the immigrant population who had secured employment in the newly constructed nearby mills. It was out of gratitude that the first Irish and French Canadians and later the Italians and Polish immigrants made tremendous sacrifices to provide a spiritual home and a community for what was then a hostile anti-Catholic environment. Their generosity and hard work in building a church and a faith community flowed from their thanksgiving to God for the faith that sustained them as they made the long journey from persecution, famine, and poverty to a land of freedom and opportunity for their children and grandchildren, for you and for me. We are the recipients of their hard work and generosity. Much has changed since our mothers and fathers founded this parish and built our beautiful house of worship. Our ancestors could not have imagined the bounty with which we now live in comparison to those days. We have so much more material possessions compared to our immigrant ancestors. And even today, so many of us have so many more things compared to men, women, and children living in other places in our country and around the world. Just a short distance from where we gather as a parish family, people live on next to nothing. How blessed and fortunate indeed we are. But some things have not changed. We continue to live in a world filled with need and oppression, a society where values that we strive to guide our lives are often ignored or ridiculed. We, like our ancestors in faith, have been truly gifted. We have so much to be grateful for. We've been greatly blessed. We, like them, need a spiritual home that is fortified to withstand the storms that surround us near and far. It's our time to take stock of our many blessings. Every single of them, including the gift of life itself, is a gift from God. We need to ask ourselves as individuals and as families, how are we giving back our fair share to God? Not just of our time, our talents, but also our treasure. For we are the men and women on whose shoulders the future rests. During Mass, I lift up to God the basket containing the collection. It's a symbol of our offering back to God of all that God has given to us. As you place your offerings in the basket or write out your check, does it truly reflect your degree of gratitude to God? I ask you to take some time to reflect in prayer upon the blessings that you have received from God, and then as a family, prayerfully discuss your financial response to God's goodness. How much financially should you commit to each week? I don't know. That's between you and God. I'm very much aware that some of our parish family members are already giving as much as they can. Many live on fixed incomes or without a job or have other financial difficulties. And so I'm grateful for whatever you were able to give. But I also know that there are many among us that can give back to God more. Let's consider all the things that we spend money on. Most of us would not think of not leaving between a 15 and 20% tip in gratitude for service when we go to dinner. Even if you go only to McDonald's with your family, 10% is more than a crumpled up dollar bill. How much money do we spend a week on coffee alone? Sweets and Java, Dunkin', or Brillo? And if you take your family once a year to a concert or a Patriots game, how much does that set you back? If you're wondering how much that you should give, ask the Lord. 100% of what we possess ultimately comes from God. What percentage are you willing to give back to God? As you and your family consider your honest response, I ask you to reflect upon the importance of St. Mary's in your life and in the life of your family. If you follow the bulletin, it's no secret that we're struggling financially. If we were to hire a person we need as a pastoral associate, we would not have the money to pay that person. Some of our current employees work at 50 to 60% of what they could make in another job. Their service to us is truly an act of love. We have made cuts. There is nowhere else to cut. We need to pay our bills, to pay our staff, and continue to provide services to our parish family. I formed a new committee to explore the various ways we can increase our revenue. A representative from that committee will speak to you in a few weeks. In our readings from Scripture this weekend, we heard once again that God cannot be undone in generosity, and that God will provide for all our needs if we trust in God. The question is, do we trust God enough to be generous as God has been generous to us? As you and your family consider your response, may God fill you with the courage to make a leap of faith in giving back to God from all that God has given us, trusting that God will never be undone in generosity. My heart is filled with gratitude for all you do to make St. Mary's in Jefferson truly the place to be. Thank you very much, and God bless you and your family.